So this last session is called Growing Indigenous Innovation Partnerships and Initiatives, which will focus on sharing other emerging UH research initiatives that have catalyzed with the support of the Office of Indigenous Knowledge and Innovation. So we'd like to welcome our next set of panelists onto the stage. I'd like to welcome Suzanne Case, Director, Land and Ocean Conservation Futures, UH System. Please welcome Suzanne. Also, Kawena Elkington, Graduate Research Assistant, Pōʻai Kealoha ʻāina Lab, UH Mānoa. Please welcome Kawena. And next, we have Donavan Kealoha, Managing Director, Startup Capital Ventures SBI Fund, and co-founder, Purple Maya Foundation. Please welcome Donavan. And our fourth panelist is Albie Miles, Associate Professor, Sustainable Community Food Systems, UH West Oahu. Please welcome Albie. And moderating this panel is Vassilis Syrmos, UH System Vice President for Research and Innovation. Please welcome Vassilis. Following this discussion, there will be a short Q&A session, so we kindly ask that members of the audience with questions for the panelists please make your way to the microphone to do so. And we'll begin shortly.
All right. Are we ready? Good to go. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Thank you for this wonderful conference. Where is Kamu? There he is. Thanks, Kamu, for all the great stuff you do for us. So, first of all, I wanted to introduce a little bit the members of our panel. I'm not going to tell you how great they are or who they are, but as I told them, you know, what I want them to do is actually introduce themselves and talk a little bit about their journey to where they are here, how they arrived at this point in their life here, and why they do what they do. And with that, maybe I start with Suzanne at the end of the time.
Okay.
Come on.
All right. Well, Vassilis is encouraging us to be pretty personal about this journey story. So I thought I'd talk about some symbols for me growing up that were really powerful that brought me here. And when I started at the university a year ago, was having lunch with Kamu, and no surprise, we ended up on a pretty esoteric discussion. But we were talking about a very personal experience that sort of called us. And for me, I remember, and I had never told this to anybody before, and you're the first group since, but I grew up in Kealoha and until I was 10. And I don't know, in about third grade, I just have this vision of me looking out onto the ocean, winter, when it's stormy, and the water is just deep, dark blue, and with white breakers on it. And there was something just really compelling to me about that moment that stuck with me. And I learned recently that the name of the actual place I grew up in Kealoha is Waiuli. So that's, that's deep, dark sea. And so there's something super super powerful to me about that calling. And I had a similar experience in South Kona. We used to go to South Kona all the time. My experience is I could map in my brain years later underwater much better than I could map above water. And then my third kind of powerful symbol was when we moved to Honolulu, which was a rough experience, but a good one in the end. Somehow I ended up with a symbol of a hala tree of me being a hala tree with the roots going all the way to the center of the earth. And so those are, I don't know, they're just my personal deep connection to land, to ʻāina, to earth, to place that has just driven me the whole time. The other, and I got to explore all over when I was growing up, so I know a lot of places very intimately and love them. The other, I think, unusual experience I had just by chance was we were going to Waiakeakai Elementary School when the tsunami hit in 1960 and wiped out the whole peninsula. And we all got scattered to other schools, and I ended up for 3rd and 4th grade in Kealoha Elementary School, which was, it was totally Hawaiian school, very, very few non-Hawaiians. My 4th grade class, actually, we played in, I think, the 2nd Merry Monarch Festival. A couple of Hawaiian songs, and my classmates all had these really cool ukulele, and I had like a pineapple one. But it gave me this sort of inside sense of belonging that's never left me. So that, I think, has driven my drive to conserve Hawaii and the whole planet. In a way that's very personal, and that my journey was through law. I went to the Nature Conservancy for 28 years in land transactions and management, and then to 8 years at the Department of Land and Natural Resources, where I was able to do that on a complicated, bigger scale, but a very powerful one too. And that's my background.
Thanks, Suzanne.
Aloha mai kākou. My name is Kawena Elkington. I was born and raised here on Oahu, over on the Ko'olaupoko side between Hakipu'u, Kane'ohe, and Laie. Forgive me, I am a grad student, so therefore anxious. I'm also a millennial, so I'm even more so anxious. So I might be peeking down. These are my notes down here. I'm not texting or anything, but hopefully I don't need to look down as much as I think that I need to. Born and raised over in Ko'olaupoko, went to Kikula Kaiapuni o Pu'ohala there until I got into Kamehameha for 7th grade. I've been nerdy since almost the day I was born. I spent a lot of time in the back corner or next to the desk of my grandmother. She was an she led the English department, and she taught English classes at BYU for 30 years, and I was first grandbaby, so I got to be there and learn how to be a grad student from her. And so I can't help but be super technical in that way, but when it comes to having the honor of being here, I don't see her now, maybe she did have to leave, but Puni Jackson was here talking earlier. When it comes to my journey of being here, looking at ancestral circular economy, especially in the role that I am, it goes back to an undergrad class under the guidance of Kumukekua Kikiloi, where we were positioned or we were assigned to intern and provide research support to specific community-based organizations. I was very lucky to be partnered with Ho'oulu ʻāina, and my research there had everything to do with looking at OEV ideas of economics. And this is coming from growing up, aligning and associating economy with very negative ideas. Economy was gentrification. Economy was, McDonald's and Starbucks starting to pop up. Economy was what we were fighting against before my time, when we had the Keep the Country Country movement up in the North Shore, and that was against economy and development. So that's where I was at that time. So I was coming into ʻŌʻāina thinking very different things, but it was there where I was encouraged and guided by not just Puni, but Casey and her whole team there about economics. What is economy? What is economy to us as OEV, as Native Hawaiians? What does economy have to do with care? What does economy have to do with relationality? What does economy have to do with how we define success? And so those ideas started to get really built out under her guidance there. And that was almost 10 years ago. Oh my gosh, I just thought about that. But going from there, I am very lucky to be here on behalf of Dr. Kawena Beamer. He is my boss, and he was originally invited, but he was not able to make it. I'm glad he trusts me to talk in front of a bunch of people about us. But he, under his guidance in his first seminar on what is called the circular economy and Aloha ʻāina. So all of us grad students are coming into this course thinking, okay, we're figuring out what circular economy is. We know you've talked story to people in Germany and other places in the world, starting to build out what this circular economy is. Let's learn about it. And so we really got to build that out in this seminar. Going from there into a PhD program in geography, I was very lucky to be granted a graduate research assistantship in his lab, what we call the Pōʻai Kealoha ʻāina lab, and that is what we're looking at now. Aloha ʻāina, circular economy, really looking at how we can revive or bring forward ancestral ideas of economy, the ancestral circular economy, and looking at how we can reframe economy now using those things, not just here in Hawaii, but all over the world. And I'm excited to talk more about that.
Aloha mai kākou, o Donavan, Kealoha, ko'u inoa, no lana I mai au, ke manawa, no au I waiau. Aloha, Donavan, Kealoha, originally from Lanai, I call waiau home. So, interesting, lots of some connections, signs that you brought up. My ohana, I grew up on Lanai, but my ohana is from actually Kealoha, and so the new mayor of Maui is my cousin, for real kind. I don't know his first name, but I know it's my cousin because I call him my brother. It's my cousin. Oh, that's the Portuguese side. Okay, so Puni, I went to middle school with her at Kamehameha schools, and so it's cool. I graduated from Lanai High, went to UH as an architecture major, but from a Lanai boy coming to the big city, you know, I was more interested in extracurricular activities there, so I was doing all kinds of stuff. But the classes that I was doing well in was Hawaiian language, and so stuck with that, graduated with a Olala Hawaii degree, went back home to Lanai, taught for a bit, and then because I was the youngest person on staff, they thought I could teach business, and I was like, okay, I can try. I never took a business class before, but I'll do it. And that's when I kind of got interested in business. I've always been a hustler, trying to make $1 at 15 cents. Part of that being, you know, growing up on Plantation Island, not that much stuff. So if you wanted something, you had to figure out how you was gonna get it, right? And so those kinds of skills were innate with me, I guess, being resourceful. And then also being the hiapo of many grandkids, yeah? Being entrusted with taking care of your brothers, your cousins, your other cousins, all those kinds of experiences, you know, I guess in combination made entrepreneurship and business interesting to me. So I started a company, like any good entrepreneur, it was a t-shirt company in Hawaii, did pretty well. Our rivals, if you will, at the time was U Down. So we weren't that crazy putting up stickers on the freeway signs, but we did pretty well, yeah? And then looking at downtown, because I wanted to do bigger business. I wanted to have more of an impact. And so the folks that were doing business all had law degrees. And I was like, okay, I guess I got to go to law school. So I went to law school at UH. I am grateful for the pre-admission program now called the Ululehua because, brother, my GPA was okay, but wasn't great. My test scores was okay, not great. I'm an applied learner, yeah, not a good test taker. And so thank goodness they let me in, but I seized that opportunity and made the most of it. And while at UH, I was introduced to the UH Office of Research. I think it was called OTED before. And so while my classmates were taking clinical classes, I was over at the Business Action Center, volunteering, learning business, doing business kinds of stuff. Started a business club on campus, and then started doing business plan competitions. And then my first company was actually started when I was a 2L. We were bringing to market technology that had been developed at the College of Engineering. It was involving nanotechnologies and trying to make composite materials perform better. It was kind of interesting. It was cool. So did that. Went to work for a private equity firm, and then decided to go full on into it. I indexed super heavy on optimism and confidence. And so when I decided to start the company, the conversation with the previous head of OTED was like, you can have this worldwide license to this. I said, shoots, I take them. It comes with a $200,000 debt. I go, I get them, don't worry. And so I started the company, and then we actually, 2 years later, were able to raise a significant amount of venture capital financing. That was my foray, my entry point into technology, high technology. And so learned a lot. Benefited greatly from UH and the resources that they provided to get that company started. I mean, the resources at the business school, at the law school, put me in a position our company in a position to raise some money, raise that kind of money, and progress the idea. Additionally, so with UH, I also got an MBA, a teaching certificate, and then more recently, so proud to be a UH graduate, all the way through. Recently, I guess not joined the staff, but I've been teaching classes at the law school on venture and entrepreneurship. Partly did it just so I would get the professor title. My grandma would be so proud, you guys, like so proud. But it's cool because in my business now, so right now, in addition to being co-founder, co-CEO of Purple, my day job, if you will, is I'm a managing director of a venture capital firm called Startup Capital Ventures, SBI Fund. Kind of a mouthful, but we manage a pool of capital, about $40 million, and our job is to deploy that into promising technology companies that have the potential to grow and scale. And I know we kind of had conversations about the connotations of those words, but within the context of being a fiduciary, because our investors include a lot of UH people, because we do have pension fund that's invested into our fund. Our duty is to drive returns in order to create money that can support the beneficiaries of the fund. And so that's my sort of what I do. And my connection to UH, probably say. And I hope to get into more stuff later.
Donavan is the jack of all trades. He's unbelievable.
Master of none.
Unbelievable.
Aloha, mai kako. My name is Albie Miles. I'm an associate professor at the West Oahu campus, and I direct the Sustainable Community Food Systems program, and I play different roles across the UH system. I'm not originally from Hawaii. My family hails from kind of the central coast of California, south of San Francisco, Santa Cruz specifically. That's where I was raised. And I had somewhat of a circuitous route to Hawaii. I think some of the most important inflection points in my life that brought me into studying environmental science and studying the food system were I had an opportunity to travel when I was an undergraduate student to Costa Rica. And I was there with my zoology professor, and I remember sitting kind of basking in the glory of being at the center of one of the hot spots of biological diversity on the planet, and watching the sunset with my zoology professor. And I said, well, look at that beautiful sunset. It was, bright red. And he said, Albie, do you know why the sunset is so red? And he's like, that's burning tropical rainforest. That's particulate matter in the atmosphere. And I was kind of dumbstruck with how could this actually be happening? Being immersed as somebody who was interested in conservation biology. That's what kind of drove me as a young man. But then I began to understand that agriculture is this fundamental driver of global environmental change and negative public health externalities. And so I continued along in my college career looking at a career in conservation biology, but agriculture kept coming up. And I also took a class in ethics and environmental ethics. And we were asked fundamental questions about what are our moral duties to non-human beings? What are our moral duties to the non-human world? And so those things, kind of looking at from a perspective of valuing the natural world and all of its inhabitants, and then thinking morally about what are my duties, it kind of set me on this trajectory of trying to figure out how, given my privilege and aptitudes, how I could dedicate my life to meaningful systemic change. That, of course, also takes into consideration the moral value of our fellow human beings. And so I found myself, after completing college, I enrolled in a program at UC Santa Cruz, this ecological horticulture program, one of the nation's oldest organic farming training programs in the US. And I stayed on there at what is called the Center for Agroecology and Sustainable Food Systems, that was founded in 1981. And there was an interdisciplinary research group, social scientists alongside biophysical scientists, looking at the food system of the Central Coast of California, but also looking nationally. And they were working together to kind of interrogate the food system of the Central Coast of California from multiple disciplinary angles. And so I was fortunate enough to kind of grow up in this academic culture that looked at problems systemically. And you had social scientists looking at the same systems that the biophysical scientists were looking at it. And that led me to meet a man by the name of Steve Gleesman, who was a plant ecologist who studied traditional agricultural systems of Latin America, the corn, bean, and squash intercropping system, and kind of deconstructed it biologically. So that was my introduction into traditional ecological knowledge, like through the biophysical sciences. And then I had an opportunity to study at Berkeley with a guy by the name of Miguel Altieri, also an ecologist, who also studied traditional agricultural systems throughout Latin America and the rest of the world. So that was my early exposure to kind of traditional ecological knowledge and practice, and that informed my worldview about sustainable agriculture and food systems. And as I was finishing up my doctoral degree at Berkeley, I was visiting here in Hawaii and was introduced to the folks at Mānoa. And I saw what they were doing in terms of the youth leadership training program. And I had as a teacher, I was very interested in helping young people understand the food system as a complex social, ecological, political, economic system. And I felt like in many of the institutions I spent time at, the way that they were approaching the focus on food and agriculture was highly siloed. And so I eventually applied for a job at West Oahu to help create, along with the folks at Mānoa, the Sustainable Community Food Systems Program. And since then, I've been teaching undergraduate students about the food and agricultural sector and driving a bunch of initiatives in the UH system along sustainable food and agriculture. So I'll stop there.
Thanks, Albie. I suppose I'm the most boring of everybody here. I'm an engineer, so you can understand that. So I think my journey here actually started 6 years ago. My mentor is up there, Kamu. Started over a dinner we had, and when I listened to him, I was very intrigued by his thoughts, his ideas, his vision. And I thought to myself, this young man has something valuable to offer. And I think if I can bring him into our operation in our university, he can actually educate many more people and provide leadership for many other young individuals. So I said, I'll take a chance. I'm a traditional research guy, bread and butter, as I said, engineering, but very intrigued by Kamu. So I hired Kamu, and Kamu is, as he says to everybody, I told him, come, I can only pay for you. And, you know, you have all the support of this office, which is tremendous because we are a large office. You have the support of the whole university because I'll make sure that everybody is behind you. But that's all the resources I have for you. So you go do it yourself from now on. And Kamu and I used to talk every week of how he's going, how he's doing, how he's putting the office together. He started from nothing. I don't know if people understand it, but when he came to us, he started from nothing. So I saw him growing up, and he always, after every meeting I had with him, he's like, oh my God, this guy has a lot of stuff to teach me. And he starts growing and growing, and people actually are hungry to listen to him, are hungry to listen to his ideas. He's able to bring two worlds together, the very financial savvy piece of my operation to the very indigenous piece of my operation, and he brings them together in a seamless way. So he's been very successful. He has done something unbelievable for an institution of higher education. There are not a lot of institutions of higher education that have an office like that, and the office doesn't make your program, it's the person and the persons that make the program. You saw some of the disciples of him here, and for me, I feel very good for the future because some of these young people are going to be our leaders next. So that was my journey here. Thank you, Kamu. You have done unbelievably well, not only for my office, the university, but also for the state. So that's how I came to this place. So having said that, I was talking to our panelists, and I was asking the question, you know, Indigenous innovation means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And I said in your area, and every one of them is a subject matter expert in an area. Suzanne is in conservation, Kawena is in circular economy. Donavan is an unbelievable, he goes from nonprofit to hardcore startup venture capital. Albie, it is in agro-system, food system. So I was asking them, what does it mean to you, the phrase indigenous innovation in the things you do in your work? So with that, I'll take it the other way, and I'll go first with Albie and what that means in your work.
I'll use a couple of examples. I mean, the reason that I'm here in Hawaii is because of the indigenous innovation coming out of Mānoa organic farms. I thought that what Gary and Kukui and Kamo were doing at the time was really something that needed to be scaled nationally, and I was honored to take a job at West Oahu and build a sustainable community food systems program alongside them in order to take some of the students who are graduating from their YLT program and give them an undergraduate degree program in food systems and sustainability. So really the program at West Oahu is an emergent aspect of indigenous thinking and indigenous organizing. And because the folks at Mā'o, in collaboration with Kamehameha Schools, actually funded the first part of the building out of the Sustainable Community Food Systems program. That was not initially funded by UH. And so we built it off of soft money coming out of Kamehameha Schools, and I, as the only faculty member, working with Gary and Kukui to kind of build out that initial phases of the curriculum. Since then, once that KS money faded, we were able to get a tenure track line that I now occupy, and then KS funded the next phase of funding. And what we did is wrote a proposal to KS to fund a faculty member in the field of traditional ecological knowledge and practice. That's not my area of expertise. I'm trained as a Western ecologist. And so knowing, having been exposed to agricultural ecologists who study indigenous food and farming systems around the world, I see those as equally valid epistemological systems, meaning Western science and traditional forms of science. Let's bring those two things alongside one another, and let's give value, explicit value to that in our curriculum. And so that's what we set out to do. And now we have a tenure-track faculty member. His name is Matthew Lau. He did all this postdoc at Harvard University and is also an ecologist. And he's now holding down this set of courses in our Sustainable Community Food Systems program on traditional ecological knowledge and practice, and reaches out into the community to kind of co-teach and facilitate drawing upon the existing knowledge systems of our practitioner community and building that formally into the curriculum. So that's one example. I'll share just one other is, this dialogue that's happening between Western science and indigenous forms of science. I don't know exactly how that's done, right? But what we've done recently is with Noah Lincoln, who I work with on different projects, and Matthew Lau and other indigenous scholars, we launched a special research topic in a journal called Frontiers in Sustainable Food Systems. And it's really soliciting from academics around the world, how do you meaningfully integrate indigenous knowledge into a Western context classroom? And so we're collecting and will be contributing to that knowledge of how that's meaningfully done. So I look to the indigenous communities to kind of inform how I operate, partially as a Western academic, but I'm also using my position as a chief editor of a journal to kind of lift up these dialogues so that we can stand on a strong empirical foundation for how that work is done.
Thanks, Donavan.
I'm going to try and answer from the perspective of a professional investor. So I've been doing this for about 9, going on 10 years right now. And when I first got started, and still to this day, I got to travel to the Bay Area. I got to travel to New York because that's just where all the deals and the entrepreneurs are at. And so spending that much time up there, having to compete essentially with other venture capitalists who are at that early stage. That's why I met Alec actually. I didn't go to Harvard. I went to UH as I mentioned. I'm not in those clusters, those WHOIs, right, where the typical entrepreneur that are doing tech stuff typically come from. I'm not super technical. So to me, I was like, man, I gotta try to think differently. And so I cannot be playing the same game as everybody else. And so what are the gifts from Antipua or the things that make me a little bit different than everybody else? And so it was like, well, I'm from Hawaii, Hawaiian, we think about things a little bit differently. And so, it was a thought experiment. And then it started evolving into maybe a thesis, a personal investment thesis within the context of a typical VC firm about bringing to bear insights and knowledge from a place that's been underlooked or overlooked, right? And trying to bring those knowledges and leveraging technology for the purposes of solving some critical problems. And so that's kind of, where I'm at, thinking about it. And so Purple Maia was kind of another thought experiment about, we need to create more opportunities for our young people, because up to this day, I can count on my hand how many Hawaiian VCs, Hawaiian entrepreneurs have pitched me and my firm, so not that many. So we just got to create more opportunities for us to be at the table thinking about and starting these companies. And an interesting thing, having spent so much time, you get a lot of young people who are doing interesting things that are coming out from all schools in Hawaii, wanting to talk about their ideas. And a lot of them are coming, I say pre-programmed in the best of way, but like with this built-in Aloha ʻāina perspective, community-facing, community about, and they just they come pre-programmed with that, and they're acquiring these knowledges and skills and wanting to take that and apply that to the stuff, that they grew up knowing. And so to me, that's kind of the interesting thing that is giving conviction to this notion of indigenous innovation as an investment thesis. And so we're trying to live those out by helping to incubate, accelerate, and scale companies or projects that address those kinds of things. And so Kuha'o earlier brought up Makali'i metrics. That's kind of a really interesting one. Still kind of early, right? They are looking to measure, test soil health. Eventually, the goal is to leverage a technology called spectroscopy so you can get rid of the lab and be able to just do it with lasers. But what's cool is that, we're doing it in support of Mahiai. And so there's a project on Hawaii Island in support of Hui Mau. Noah Lincoln wrote a paper on Pakukui. And so right now it's baseline testing how that Hawaiian method could help to regenerate and improve the soil quality of that space. And so at Purple Mai'a, we are bringing resources to bear, our knowledge, trying to connect the dots for Daniel. We have these wonderful conversations with Kuha'o about the things that he talked about, mo'olelo ka'au. Are there insights in there that we could use to inform the caretaking of those places? And where technology gets leveraged is in how we monitor, the tooling that we could use, maybe the software things that we could build in order to make that happen. And then that thing, right, not necessarily the knowledge, but those tooling things becomes the exportable item outside of Hawaii that could then generate wealth to be brought back home. And then to jump to another, maybe a little bit later stage example of a UH technology / company is a company called Hohonu, birthed in a fish pond in service to Kia'i. The founder, not Hawaiian, but has worked with Hawaiian communities, Hawaiian practitioners, won or brought an EPA or NOAA grant to build sensors for fish pond folks. And when I had heard about it through Vassilis' introduction, I thought, well, it's kind of cool. You're supporting ʻāina folks. Let's just work on it, think about it. Fast forward today. So there's different kinds of applications that they provide. But today, they use Doppler technology, IoT sensors, the cloud, machine learning to provide tidal data at unprecedented hyper and spatial scales that is in support of NOAA and municipalities. And so what's interesting is that the best use case is outside of Hawaii. And so their customers include Lee County in Florida, City of Annapolis, City of Boston, a bunch of different places. But that was the technology that was built here, developed here, that is now and serving those purposes. And what's kind of cool is that they take a place-based approach to placing these sensors. And so Kelsey earlier mentioned how you just come in and drop the technology and leave. The way that we found to be the most effective was to engage with folks who are of that place, in that place, maybe not necessarily indigenous folks who have vested interest in caring for that place, finding out from them where to deploy these sensors and then providing that data to the municipalities who then use it. So that company has raised a significant amount of capital and is starting to develop these dense networks that have applicability in other kinds of markets. Proud also to say that we've started to employ more folks in Hawaii. How it connects back to Purple is that we've created and designed curriculum that kind of take the qualitative, quantitative aspect of the work that they do, and then have deployed it into our programming, and we'll want to do more of that. So, kind of a long answer, but yeah.
And thanks, Donavan. I don't think a lot of people saw the value in that company, and at that point, the CEO before Donavan took over, Hohonu, he was struggling. Excellent scientist and engineer. And I don't think a lot of VCs or a lot of potential CEOs were willing to pick up the company. But Donavan says, well, I think they have something I can work with, and I got to give it to him because he stuck with them for a long, long time and guide them here and there for years before you let them fly and on their own. So kudos to him. I don't think another VC or CEO would come in and would have done that for them. He would actually take a look at them and says, oh no, the high growth is not there. They are very mature, and he would have passed, right? So Donavan did not pass, and now they are a big success. So thanks for that.
Yeah, knock on wood too, because it's still risky. Huh? You never know about these things. So,
Kawena.
Yeah, definitely. So when you first asked that question about Indigenous innovation for us, and to contextualize a little bit more, when I say us, it's our Pōʻai Kealoha ʻāina lab, which is a project within the Dana Naone Hall Chair, which is a role that Kumukamana Beamer holds. So for us, first and foremost, is going back and looking at the innovative systems that are being or are going to be restored across Hawaii, and that being our lo'i, lokoi'a, agroforestry projects, dryland field system sections that are being restored, and this larger movement within the past quite a few decades now of restoring and understanding what an ahupua'a is, and really looking at what that was historically, what that is now, and recognizing who's doing that work out in the community. For out at Ko'olaupoko, for example, if I go down the line, we have the guys up at Pu'uhonua Waimanalo are doing their ahupua'a restoration. You got the guys down at Pauhonu over there, Kaulua Kalana restoring ulupoheiau in that area. You have Ho'okua ʻāina in Maunuili, Waikolua, Lokoi'a in Kane'ohe. And then we are a model because we became very good at it, but we have the guys in He'eia. And there is such a cool example of all of that indigenous innovation coming together with Paipai o He'eia, Kako'oiwi, Papahana Kuola, and now the NER guys. Forgive me, I don't know what the acronym stands for, but they're doing such good work looking at ahupua'a and circular economy things in the He'eia example specifically. And so really looking at the innovation of that is grounded in history and in ancestral society for us, really learning how it's inspiring and so empowering to learn the innovation of them in ways like, and my lokoi'a guys can correct me, pretty sure local kuapa, or the walled offshore fish ponds, were developed and built in a way and scale that is unique around the world, I believe, or in other parts of Polynesia at least. Or for lo'ikalo cultivation, at the peak of production, we were engaging with more than 20,000 acres worth of lo'ikalo historically across 6 islands to support a thriving civilization here that, depending on which scholar you refer to, supported an abundant economy of anywhere between like 800,000 to 1 million people here. So recognizing the innovation of those systems and also thinking through when it comes to this circular economy and kind of this global movement to really address the global crises that we're facing now in the ways of capitalism, in the ways of climate change, and how there are different regions around the world that are trying to figure out how to address these issues. And then I can talk about that more later, but in that movement, there's this subdiscipline called eco-design, and that's their way of saying, how can we make things last long and is regenerative, remains circular, but also looks good throughout all of that. They're trying to figure that out, but then if we look at our systems, say Hanalei Lo'ikalo, for example, those are all falling into this subdiscipline that have already been figured out those thousands of years ago that last a long time. Those systems were so innovative and they were developed so well that we are going back to them to revive them today. And their production capacity is incredible. And then it also looks good. You look out into these places and it's so empowering, it's so inspiring to look at this checkerboard of production that's even down to being lined up well, the shades of color, and then that's just looking at it physically. And it takes a whole nother level once you're looking at the innovation and the beauty of production and how all of these things are being informed with this relationship to ʻāina that inspires all of us today. So for us, Indigenous innovation is looking at that and then also just going off of what was already discussed, bringing all of that, all of those ideas, all of those values, all of those systems recognizing their importance, recognizing their value, and then incorporating modern technology to address the challenges that people working out in the community doing these things that are facing things that are a lot different than what our kupuna might have been facing historically. What is Lo'i going to look like in an era of sea level rise? What are Lokoi'a going to look like in an era of global warming? How can we make things more efficient through technology? And then how, on the other side of that, how can we provide a broader education on these kinds of things? And I'm super inspired by that because growing up, even in the education that I received, I came into UH Mānoa in Ike Hawaii and Hawaiian Studies still trained and talking in a way where, the Hawaiians built fish ponds back then, or the Hawaiians grew lo'i, or grew kalo in lo'i back then. But having to retrain myself to really think through, we are doing those things. We are growing kalo. We are restoring fish ponds. We are restoring agroforestry projects. We are restoring dry land field systems. So Indigenous innovation is drawing on all of these things, but also engaging in education to really get people, next generation, whether it's our students, or also across the globe with our international collaborations, how that innovation remains as well. Sorry, that seemed like a long answer, but.
Suzanne?
Well, first, actually, Vassilis, I want to recognize you for the innovation step of creating a Land and Ocean Conservation Futures Office, because I don't know of one anywhere else. And the goal of the office is to really help the university make sure that we're serving Hawaii in education and research and field work, Hawaii and the Pacific. And I also want to recognize our Associate Director, Sharon Ziegler-Chong, who's here from UH Hilo. And so we're working on that connectivity. The first thing I spent months doing was to map out who is doing what in conservation in the university. And there's so much, it's actually hard to actually map out in a way that's accessible to the outside viewer, but we're working on it. And part of that is the integration of Hawaiian culture in conservation. And that is, so we have these great conservation sort of centers. We have CTAR and NRAM. We have the life sciences. We have the physical sciences at SOAS. We have TCBS at UH Hilo. We have some hotspots in the community colleges. But we also have ʻāina-based learning. And so we have Hawaiian studies and Hawaiian language and kulana noi'i research guidance on how to do research appropriately with communities. We have the Ku'oko'a ʻāina-based leadership program in the School of Hawaiian Studies. And those actually, to us in the conservation space, I guess, are a part of conservation. It wasn't always that deeply connected. Like 20 years ago, there was not this just solid connection that there is now. It was there. There were a lot of us that felt that connection, and it was sort of the growth of the conservation movement along with the renaissance of Hawaiian culture. But a major in Hawaiian studies is as good of a base for a conservation job as anything else. And has a lot of strengths to it. So I think we recognize that it's Land and Ocean Conservation Futures, which means we need to bring everyone along. And you get that by having a deep root in your past, where you came from, what your place is, and a deep relationship to the ʻāina. And that's what has created such a powerful driver for conservation. I mean, it is about, earlier today you heard about basically the connection to healing people by reconnecting them to their culture and land. There's a lot of really wonderful discussion about that earlier. I kind of look at it from the opposite perspective, same perspective, but just a different angle, which is healing the ʻāina, healing our land and ocean is what gives us a sense of responsibility, a sense of kuleana, a sense of belonging. And that is what, in exchange, heals us collectively. And remember that this week, because that's a very powerful driver. Yeah, so I think we are. There is just so much going on, but it is very, very closely connected. And I mean, there's all kinds of innovation going on in the university that's just astounding in the conservation field. So you have like eDNA, so you could do presence absence of whatever invasives or non-invasives in a stream or on a reef. The Aloha lab at the acoustic lab in UH Hilo for identifying Hawaiian birds, drones, microbiology, all kinds of just unbelievable stuff going on. And to have people who grew up in Hawaii or who came to Hawaii, and it's a welcoming space, but the point is you love Hawaii, you have a sense of responsibility for it, and you can learn all of these tools to help bridge this knowledge. And I do think a lot about the language of this, what was culture and conservation, Western science and traditional knowledge, and we heard multiple perspectives earlier today, and it's this. I think if you are steeped in multiple perspectives, like you make the effort to learn in a deep way, other ways of knowing, and then you hold them together so that in one moment you can look at a problem or a community or a landscape and see it in the same moment from those different perspectives. Then you get this holistic view of what it will take to steward that and to heal it.
Thanks, Suzanne. I think I have my time police over there. I think with that, probably we could take some questions if you're up for it. Maybe, can I have 5 minutes? 5 minutes. So if you have any questions for our panelists, more than happy to ask. If not, then we can, please.
My name is May Okihiro. I'm with the Waianae Coast Comprehensive Health Center and also the Department of Pediatrics at JAPSM. So my question, just following up with what you all said, was the University of California at San Diego is now requiring as part of their undergraduates, it's a course on climate change education. So I'm wondering if UH, as a Native Hawaiian place of learning, if we have a requirement in Indigenous innovation and climate change.
I could answer that and actually guesstimate, but we have a faculty member that's the director of general ed, general education for UH Manoa, and probably could answer that question better than I can. So Ashley Maynard is a professor of psychology and our general ed director, by chance for some reason.
I think what's been clear today is
The answer.
We are looking at multiple disciplines and current and past knowledge and innovation, and it's the right time.
Yes, I think it's on.
Thank you for the question. Hi. So the faculty have been in discussion about adding a foundation requirement in Hawaiian knowledge. And I think that there's really a growing consensus about it across the campuses, across the system. So I'm not making any promises today, but I am in touch with many faculty who feel like it's time. And so that would be a foundation course in Hawaiian knowledge. There is also discussion about how we can integrate sustainability topics as learning objectives or hallmarks of our general education program. So there's interest. It's not quite clear how we would implement that, but I'm here if anyone has ideas for courses. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Ashley.
Not directly on point, but in partnership with artists over at Windward Community College and through Alex's efforts, we were able to help, and inspired by Albie's work at UH West Oahu, came up with an academic subject certificate that we call the Hawaiian Knowledge Innovation Cert, or the Hiki Cert. So, Hiki, bro. But it combines, so it's an academic subject certificate, but it combines classes from Hawaiian Studies, Aloha, Business, and Technology. There's the capstone that's attached to that too. And so cross-disciplinary approach to trying to do, I guess, the stuff that I was talking about. Another interesting thing that's happened at Windward Oahu along the lines of education is we started in collaboration with Kailua High, Windward, UH, Hawaii's first middle college. And so the concept is high school students, 9th and 10th grade now, spend 2 days at Windward, 2 days at their home school, and 1 day in community on ʻāina or visiting Hawaiian businesses. They are getting their regular high school classes, but are also taking college classes, earning credits, and just having their minds expanded and doing kind of interesting work. So something that we hope to maybe grow into something at UH.
Regent Wilson. Oh, where's the mic?
Yeah, as one of the members of the Board of Regents sitting here today along with my partner, Mike Miyamura, the new regent, that at the Board of Regents, I just want to let all of you know that everything we've heard here today, the focus that has been started, that's undergoing, that's being worked on and expanded at the university in all of the areas that we talked about. Fortunately, we have as our VP of Research, Vassilis here that's doing it. Ashley Maynard is really a key faculty member in the ongoing development of our general education, which is really looking at taking some of these, she was watching me as I was drawing, listening to all of you, the connections and all of the things that are going on, the work that Albie's doing out at, because I keep hearing his name and people on Maui involved in agriculture asking me what's going on, and I said, you know, look at the work that Albie's doing. So I just want to assure you and all of you who are interested and involved, for those of you who are involved with the university in bringing us, and as a native Hawaiian especially, you know, basing a lot of and bringing back that culture and understanding that's all part of Kamana's not here today. You're representing him with the OPO. So I think that, you know, to me, the institution, as I said to the president, new president that we just, as the Board of Regents selected, when I talked to her, I said, you know, I look at the University of Hawaii system being the premier the generation, discovery, and generation, and the distribution and transfer of that knowledge to be the premier institution in the Pacific area, the entire Pacific. 1/3 of our globe is really the area that I'm talking about. And just wanted to point out all of the hard work that's going on. Thank you.
Thank you, Regent.